Colleagues, we need to return to motions and resolutions. Pursuant to Senate Rule 29.10, the following bills are referred to the Rules Committee. File Item 99, Senate Bill 145. Returning to Senate Supplemental File Number 2, File Item 90, Senate Bill 102. Mr. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 102 by the Committee on Budget and Fiscal Review and Act relating to state government and making an appropriation therefore to take effect immediately. Bill related to the budget.
Senator Leno.
Thank you, Madam President. Colleagues, this is the General Government Trailer Bill, and it does a number of things. It harmonizes the practice of determining salary levels for members of the Board of Parole Hearing with other state boards and commissions. It clarifies funding limits for counties under the Community Services Recidivism Reduction Grant Program, makes a technical change that allows the Health Benefit Exchange Board an exemption from the State Contracting Act for all purchases instead of just capital acquisitions, thus allowing greater flexibility and timely purchases. And lastly, clarifies that loans are never included in gross income for tax purposes and corrects the existing definition of residential structures for purposes of seismic risk mitigation grants. I ask for your aye vote.
Discussion or debate? Discussion or debate? Seeing none, Mr. Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen. Aye. Anderson. No. Bates. No. Bell. Aye. Berryhill. No. Block. Aye. Cannella. No. De Leon. Aye. Fuller. No. Gaines. No. Galgiani. Aye. Glazer. Hall. Aye. Hancock. Aye. Hernandez. Aye. Hertzberg. Aye. Hill. Aye. Hueso. Aye. Huff. No. Jackson. Aye. Lada. Aye. Leno. Aye. Leva. Aye. Liu. Aye. McGuire. Aye. Mendoza. Aye. Mitchell. Aye. Monning. Aye. Morlock. No. Morrell. No. Wynn. No. Nielsen. No. Pan. Aye. Pavley. Aye. Roth. Aye. Runner. No. Stone. No. Vidak. No. Wykowski. Aye. Wolk. Wolk, aye.
Call the absent members.
Glazer. Aye.
Ayes 26, noes 14. The Assembly amendments are concurred in. File Item 91, Senate Bill 103. Mr. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 103 by the Committee on Budget and Fiscal Review and Act relating to Education Finance and making an appropriation therefore to take effect immediately. Bill related to the budget.
Senator Leno.
Thank you, Madam President. SB 103 is our Education Finance Trailer Bill. Most significantly, it identifies the Director of the Office of Planning and Research as the entity required to conduct a $1 million study that will evaluate eligibility and admissions policies for the University of California and the California State University. It also specifies timing changes for reports for the CSU Director of Nursing Practice, Degree Pilot Program, and the CSU Early Start Program report. It also makes the San Mateo County Child Care Subsidy Plan, finally, which allows child care providers to have additional flexibility in child care contracts. It makes it permanent. And it also clarifies the distribution methodology for $490 million in one-time educator effectiveness funds to specify that an equal amount is provided per full-time equivalent certificated staff. I ask for your aye vote.
Any discussion or debate on the item? Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, Mr. Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen. Aye. Anderson. Bates. Bell. Aye. Berryhill. Aye. Block. Aye. Cannella. Aye. De Leon. Aye. Fuller. Aye. Gaines. Aye. Galgiani. Aye. Glazer. Aye. Hall. Aye. Hancock. Aye. Hernandez. Aye. Hertzberg. Aye. Hill. Aye. Hueso. Aye. Huff. Aye. Jackson. Aye. Lada. I. Leno. I. Leva. I. Liu. I. McGuire. I. Mendoza. I. Mitchell. I. Monning. I. Morlock. I. Morrell. I. Wynn. I. Nielsen. No. Pan. I. Pavley. I. Roth. I. Runner. Stone. Vidak. I. Wachowski. I. Wolk. Wolk, aye.
Call the absent members, please.
Anderson. I. Bates. I. Runner. I. Stone. Aye.
Ayes 39, noes 1. The Assembly amendments are concurred in. Moving on to file item 88, Senate Bill 99. Mr. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 99 by the Committee on Budget and Fiscal Review, enacting to state public employment and making an appropriation therefore to take effect immediately. Bill related to the budget.
Senator Leno.
Thank you, Madam President. Colleagues, this is our state public employment trailer bill. As we all know, the administration has very admirably been taking steps to reform and improve our state civil service system. This bill represents most recent changes, and it also provides ratification of a memorandum of understanding agreements between the state bargaining unit number 9, that's the professional engineers, as well as the bargaining unit number 10, which is the professional scientists. So it consolidates various hiring eligibility list requirements into a single process under the rule of 3 ranks, which would allow hiring managers to consider all eligible persons whose examination scores result in them being in the top 3 ranks. It also expands the pool of candidates eligible to compete for a career executive assignment position to include individuals from the private sector. It does implement pre-funding for retiree health benefits to all bargaining unit 9 and 10 employees starting July 1st, 2017. And this is a very important first step. The administration's hope and intent is that this will be replicated in all of the new negotiations and agreements that they reach with the other bargaining units that are coming up for review in the coming months, attending to the $72 billion unfunded liability that we currently have. The explanation in committee today was that over a 30-year period, due to some changes I'm about to share with you, we will have resolved entirely that $72 billion unfunded liability. So it does so by modifying graduated vesting for retiree health care benefits from the current 10 years to 20 years and to 15 to 25 years, from the 10 to 20 to 15 to 25 for new bargaining unit 9 and bargaining unit 10 employees hired after January 1st of 2016. So of course it does not impact any current obligations and agreements that we have with workers. It also sets a ceiling on the employer contribution for retiree health care at 80% for non-Medicare basic plan premiums and Medicare plan premiums for new employees hired after January 1st, 2016. Of course, currently that ceiling is 100%, come down to 80%, the state's obligation. And lastly, provides $300,000 one-time general fund for the Department of Finance to post all budget requests included in the governor's budget on its website for greater transparency and access for the public. I ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, sir. And Senator Stone.
Thank you, Madam President and members. I like some components in SB 99, but I think the most egregious component of this bill is that the LAO confirmed today that we have 3,200 employees at Caltrans that are not needed. If we don't need those employees, we could save the state $500 million and put it towards the infrastructure needs that we've been struggling and proposing taxes on our constituents to pay for. So not only are we keeping employees that we don't need, but we're even entertaining giving them raises. I think this shows the whole debauchery of the state of California and our budget process. and trying to run lean. We have people that live in homes that are struggling today that have to balance their budgets, and we refuse to balance our budgets and keep our priorities right. You know what? We should have a top-down analysis of the state of California and streamline government, use technology. We could cut billions of dollars out of waste. This legislature has a perpetual addiction to spending and doesn't want to cut to save money so that we don't have to lean on our constituents to pay yet more taxes. For those reasons, I respectfully urge a no vote on SB 99.
Thank you. Any further discussion or debate? Senator Nielsen.
Madam President, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, I cannot support this today because of concerns over the totality of the budget and our considerations therein. Observing in part that over these last toughest years in state history, the actual number of state employees has not decreased. And sadly, state government has not really changed. In fact, state government has only gotten more powerful, in part through the additional employees, but mostly because of authorities and powers accorded by the legislature. That said, I want to acknowledge that there are an awful lot of state employees that, have suffered, just like the rest of the private sector. And I particularly would like to acknowledge the scientists that work in our state government. I am convinced that their levels are too low, and that's not something you often hear me say about state employees. But I was talking to some folks about that this afternoon, and I know who those scientists are, and I've worked with them, and I know what they do. They're particularly helpful to my own industry. So I want to sing their praises, and I'm sure that this is going to pass. My point in looking at these MOUs, and I will note that there is some progress made on some of the excesses that we have had to contend with. But I will make note of another point that I made in committee today, and this related to the overall picture of dealing with our state employees and the MOUs. The accrual of annual leave and the caps, we tried to, not on annual leave, but on the vacant positions. In other words, that we are budgeted for so many positions, and during the course of that year, the department does not fill those positions. Those then vacant positions result in what's called salary savings, and then the agencies use that to spend late in the year. I remember one time a chief administration came into me at the end of the year and said, Jim, we've got X number of dollars that we can spend on whatever. This was in the Board of Parole hearings. And I said, what do you mean? Where did we get all that money? Well, we didn't fill these positions. Oh, well, I said, we're not going to do that anymore. Well, we put a provision in a few years ago that said if you don't fill them in 6 months, you lose them. Well, of course, the agency became masters at manipulating that, and there's ways we could plug that loophole too. I hope we will at least revisit it. But let's say that there are some deserving people in state government, and this will be helpful to them. But in terms of the overall budget, I cannot be supportive of the MOUs tonight.
Thank you so much, sir. Senator Morlott.
Thank you, Madam President. Just a question for the floor manager.
Senator Leno, will you take a question?
Happy to.
This morning we covered AB 131, and so is that included in SB 99? Are we approving the MOU, or are we approving the budget for the MOU?
AB 131 and SB 99, Senator, are mirror bills.
They are?
Mirror bills.
Mirror bills. Okay, so since I'm up, colleagues, first of all, I just want to say thanks. I've had a great 6 months, and I just want to thank everybody for the opportunity to serve with you. It's been a real pleasure. I spent 8 years as a supervisor, and so I've done a lot of negotiations of contracts with employees. So one of the things we did with our retiree medical was we decided to pay for it ourselves and not create some kind of sense of ownership by the employees. And therefore, we didn't have to raise their pay either. So what we're doing here at the state is we're raising their pay so they can pay the withholding. So now all of a sudden we're giving a 7% pay raise to engineers. Well, that's going to be real interesting because now you've got 20 plus other bargaining units that are going to come in and say, hey, what about us? We want a 7% pay raise. So I am a little concerned about those aspects. I did look at our actuarial reports. They were prompt in giving them to me, so I want to thank the senator from San Francisco as chair of the Budget Committee. $72 billion in unfunded retiree medical that we have to deal with. Not the most pleasant read, but if we were to be a little more aggressive in how we negotiate our retiree medical, we can reduce the unfunded liability dramatically, and that was one of the things we weren't provided this morning in the Budget Committee is what are some of the factors we're pursuing? What will they have? If we're going to go and require them to use Medicare at age 65, that's a big savings. How does that compute? And we haven't seen that. But I am nervous about the big pay raises. I'm nervous about what it does to your other bargaining units. I'm nervous what it does to your counties. I'm nervous what it does to your cities, because we have a lot of cities and counties that can't afford to give raises because they're busy paying for pension plan contributions. So somewhere along the way, you have to have one or the other. If you're going to have a massive pension plan, then you're not going to really get raises. If you want raises, you better adopt a 401k type plan, a defined contribution, then there's room for that. So I'm having trouble, and I can still remember being on the Transportation Authority Board in the middle of the recession, and the federal government gave Amtrak engineers raises. And we're all thinking, what's with the federal government? Where are they at? And then how do we explain that to our staff? I remember it was one of those really great awkward moments. So with that, colleagues, I think we need to be a little more careful how we negotiate, or at least we need to give the administration a little more help in trying to fix the problems. And again, you guys weren't very good to counties and cities that have adopted the civic openness and negotiations, but COIN is desperately needed in the governor's office as well. So I'll be opposed to this bill. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, sir. Senator Pan.
Thank you, Madam President. Senators, as the senator representing Sacramento, which actually has probably one of the larger numbers of state workers working within my district, I do feel like I need to respond to some of the statements that have been made on the floor briefly. First of all, there were some comments made about the size of our state workforce in general, and then, of course, more specifically related to the engineers. I just want to say that, first of all, if you actually look at the data, we have one of the smallest ratios of state workers to population of any state in the country. So our state workers are very efficient. We have a big state. Our state workers are very efficient, and we do have, compared to other states, we have a smaller ratio of state workers compared to most other states. I also want to comment about the engineers, and I think one of the, so first of all, I just want to point out that the staffing on the engineers is actually, we can argue about whether it's too large or too small, but it is the lowest in 18 years. I also point out one of the things we're struggling with right now is we're trying to get funding for transportation for maintenance. So while we don't have the money, yes, admittedly, there's probably less work for our engineers, and if we really are honest about trying to get our transportation issues addressed and actually get our roads fixed, we're going to need more of them. So let's get to work and getting some funds to actually fix those roads, which is costing each of the taxpayer people who use them, most of them taxpayers, a lot of money in repairs to cars and other types of vehicles and other types of things. So let's put our engineers to work. The other thing I also just want to comment, because there were some statements made about retiree health, and certainly as the chair of the PERS committee, we've been looking at retiree health as well. This MOU actually is going to eliminate the problem over 30 years, I think, as our chair of the Budget Committee said. So the administration is taking steps, these MOUs requiring that, that the engineers and scientists actually pay into retiree health. Yes, it's a problem that we have not, that is being addressed. So I hope you will vote for this because it's actually being addressed for the first time in a significant way in these MOUs. If you like what you see here, if you think that's something that should happen, vote for these MOUs so we can say, look, the legislature supports them, and we're going to encourage the other bargaining units, when they come on board, that they need to do the same thing. All right, so that if you vote no, I think you're sending the wrong message there. Finally, I also just want to say that we've been working also very hard with many of the state workers in terms of, we talk about retiree health. One of the things I've been working with them is how do we actually produce healthier work environments? And in fact, I hope you can all help me in doing that as we're looking at how do we try to, if we're going to lower retiree health costs, let's be sure we have healthy work environments so that they don't get sick when they get retired and now cost us more money. In fact, there's a lot of things we could be doing to do that, but that does take some investment in infrastructure, in the workplaces they have, and so forth. So again, I urge, and I vote for all the reasons that the opposition has brought up as the things we need to take care of. This is the right step in the right direction. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion or debate? Seeing none, Senator Leno, please close.
Thank you, Madam President. I really enjoyed the healthy debate, and I think my Republican counterparts on the Budget Committee, as stated, would recognize that though we bring a difference of opinion of fiscal matters to the committee, it is a very collegial committee, and we have great debates, and we share a lot of thoughts, and I think we learn a lot from one another as well. So I'm glad that all of you are on that Budget Committee, and thank you for your comments tonight. We have more in common than we have in difference. Senator Nielsen's ongoing concern with the gaming of unfilled positions, I am right there with him, and I know the governor is as well. And the civil service reform measures that he's put forward attest to that. I would agree with Senator Pan that a no vote is actually sustaining the status quo. It leaves the $72 billion unfunded liability just that, an unfunded liability. Well, the steps we've taken in these MOUs finally addresses it, and it will be resolved over a 30-year period because of what the governor has been able to negotiate with these two bargaining units for the first time ever, extending the vesting period. That's not happened before. Requiring that employees contribute to their retiree health care costs, that we, the state as employer, will be capped at 80%. Currently, we're at 100%. These are good reform measures, and now that the governor has negotiated these contracts, he can use them as a template for the other negotiations that are to follow. So it's a good step forward. Many of you, I know, do remember the report that then Treasurer Lockyer put out a few years back that showed that, as again Senator Penn mentioned, in terms of the ratio of the number of state employees to the state's population, we are in our leanest form than we've been since the days of Governor Reagan. It's not been any leaner. We're moving in the right direction. Can we do more? Should we do more? I'm right there with you. We have to be as lean as we can be because the needs and the demands of the state are so great they can never be met. I do want to just share some reassuring information to you. The Caltrans Capital Outlay Support Program has reduced its full-time equivalent positions by 3,422, or 26% of the total workforce since 2007-8. And despite California's huge growth in population, freeway infrastructure, and vehicle miles traveled, Caltrans' current capital outlay support staffing level is at an 18-year low. So again, we're on a very positive path right now. I encourage you to stay engaged in the budget process so that we can work with the administration to be ever more efficient in our delivery of service to our constituents. And I don't think anyone would argue that there's a governor in recent history who is tighter with a nickel than our governor today. So no one is throwing money at employees in their benefits or in their salaries right now. So this is a good measure. I ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen? Aye. Anderson? No. Bates? No. Bell? Aye. Berryhill? No. Block? Aye. Cannella? Aye. De Leon? Aye. Fuller? No. Gaines? No. Gaggiani? Aye. Glazer? Hall. I. Hancock. I. Hernandez. I. Hertzberg. I. Hill. I. Wesso. I. Huff. No. Jackson. I. Lara. I. Leno. I. Leva. I. Liu. I. McGuire. I. Mendoza. I. Mitchell. I. Monning. I. Morlock. No. Morrell. No. Wynn. No. Nilsson. No. Pan. I. Pavley. I. Roth. I. Runner. No. Stone. No. Vidak. No. Wykowski. I. Wolk. Wolk, aye. Glazer, no.
Ayes 26, noes 14. The Assembly amendments are concurred in. Supplemental file number 2, file item number 86. Senator Hernandez. Again, colleagues, supplemental file number 2, file item 86. Mr. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 36 by Senator Hernandez, an act relating to Medi-Cal and declaring the urge thereof to take effect immediately.
Senator Hernandez.
Thank you, Madam President.
You're very welcome.
The Assembly amendments bridge the gap between the current Medicaid Section 1115 waiver and the new waiver, which is still being negotiated with the federal government. This bill does two things. First, it allows the Department of Healthcare Services to request one more temporary waiver extension. Second, it requires the department to extend the existing hospital payment methodologies under the current waiver. The current waiver expires October 31st, 2015, and a new waiver agreement has been reached between the state and the federal government. An extension of the current hospital financing methodologies would continue to provide essential funding for safety net hospitals in the event of a delay in completion of the next waiver and until state hospital financing law is amended to determine the new waiver-related hospital funding provision resulting from the next waiver. This bill has passed with bipartisan support, and members, I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Thank you. Any discussion or debate on this current measure? Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, Mr. Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen. I. Anderson. I. Bates. I. Bell. I. Berryhill. I. Block. I. Canella. I. DeLeon. I. Fuller. Gaines. I. Galgiani. I. Glazer. I. Hall. I. Hancock. I. Hernandez. I. Hertzberg. I. Hill. I. Wesso. I. Huff. No. Jackson. I. Lara. I. Leno. I. Leva. I. Liu. I. McGuire. I. Mendoza. I. Mitchell.
Aye.
I. Monning. I. Morlock. I. Morrell. Wynn. I. Nilsson. I. Pan. I. Pavley. I. Roth. I. Runner. I. Stone. I. Vidak. I. Wykowski. I. Wolk. Wolk, aye.
Call the absent members.
Huff, no to aye. Fuller. Morrell. Aye.
Ayes 39, no 0. The Assembly, ayes 39, no 0 on the urgency. Ayes 39, no 0. The Assembly amendments are concurred in. Colleagues, we're going to finish up supplemental file number 2. We'll be moving on to file number 87. Mr. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 48 by Senator Hill, an act relating to the Public Utilities Commission.
Senator Hill.
Thank you, Madam President. Members, I rise to request concurrence in Assembly amendments to SB 48, which adopts several reforms to the Public Utilities Commission. Assembly amendments add requirements for the PUC to conduct outreach and make other technical changes. I respectfully request concurrence on Assembly amendments.
Any discussion or debate? Any discussion or debate? Any objection to the use of unanimous roll call? There's objection. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen. Aye. Anderson. Bates. Aye. Bell. Aye. Berryhill. Aye. Block. Aye. Canella. Aye. De Leon. Aye. Fuller. Gaines. Aye. Galgioni. Glazer. Aye. Hall. Aye. Hancock. Aye. Hernandez. Aye. Hertzberg. Aye. Hill. Aye. Hueso. Aye. Huff. Aye. Jackson. Aye. Lara. Aye. Leno. Aye. Leva. Aye. Liu. Aye. McGuire. Aye. Mendoza. Mitchell.
Aye.
Aye. Monning. Aye. Morlock. Aye. Morrell. No. Wynn. Aye. Nielsen. Aye. Pan. Aye. Pavley. Aye. Roth. Aye. Runner. Aye. Stone. Aye. Vidak. Aye. Wachowski. Aye. Wolk. Wolk, aye.
Call the absent members.
Galgioni, aye. Anderson. Aye. Fuller. Mendoza.
Call the absent members.
Fuller. Mendoza.
Ayes 37, noes 1. The Assembly amendments are concurred in. File item 92 is moved to inactive. File item 93, Senate Bill 249.